Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. Sign up for a 1-week free trial, no credit card required, for access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. We're going to look at the Canadian MJ sector today, and we're going to look at it from a longer term perspective, the daily and the weekly charts. Then we're going to look at some US names that have tightening equilibrium patterns on the daily time frame and should give us some clear breaks coming up this coming week, and certainly expecting volume and volatility to pick up again, as it has been pretty tight this past week. And as I've been saying to people, as long as we have inside bars on the daily time frame and tight ranges, we need to scale back our day trading, because tight ranges mean less volume, less volatility, and less opportunity. So I scale back my aggressive trading style, which is certainly much more active when we are in breakout mode with significant percentage moves. And I scale that way back, because otherwise you're going to end up giving profits back if you're trying to make day trades within tight short-term ranges. So starting it off with MJX on the weekly time frame, we have a very clear inside bar to be watching, and it does favor the bulls because we closed up at the high of the inside bar. So if we start this next week and break 36.50, that's a bullish start, and we have healthy consolidation at this point. We look at the daily chart, and we pulled back significantly. We're now trying to see a bounce follow through, and this resistance of 36.50 is essentially a double top. We rejected from there back on Tuesday and Friday by 1 penny, so I do consider that a double top. And if that breaks, there's not a whole lot of resistance up towards the all-time high. I would be surprised if the bulls were able to go from breaking the higher low pattern right back towards the all-time high, because we broke this higher low, and I'm referring to this little consolidation low at the bottom of this candlestick. Because we broke that level, that would have me looking at the bulls more likely than not setting a lower high with an inability to get back towards that all-time high. But the sector has had a good fair amount of solid news coming in. You know, one day it's ACB, and I've been noticing the news releases, which normally are in the morning, they've been coming out mid-morning and in the middle of the trading day. That's a little bit new. It's happened on multiple companies this week. So when I'm referring to the big three when I'm saying that. So there's definitely steady news keeping things afloat. I think that news has prevented from more significant consolidation at this point. It's definitely, the bulls are very pleased, although that consolidation pulled back really quickly on WEED. You know, we went from 44 to 30 very quick. The way that we are holding up after that initial pullback is bullish, and the bulls are very confident. We did not confirm the bearish reversal candlesticks on these weekly time frames. So a clear bearish reversal shooting star candlestick with an upper wick of profit taking was not confirmed. The bulls bought the dip this week, and again, holding on strong. So the daily chart for WEED, a lot of people asking about where to initiate long-term positions. And you have to remember that you shouldn't fear initiating long-term positions as long as you have proper stops in place. And we were very cautious on the way up when we shot up such a significant percent, because we didn't establish much support on the way up. So when we were here and we established support at 29.07 and then we shot up into the $40 range, that is a situation where I do not make long-term entries because we haven't established any support. At this point, we have pulled back and consolidated, and we have a bunch of different support levels to be looking at. So look at the last 4 days with a fairly tight trading range. If you're watching this trading range, you could say to yourself, okay, the low of the last 4 days is 35.26. The support after 35.26 is all the way down at 29.50. That's almost a 20% drop until the next clear daily support level. I can make an entry in a long-term position right now. If we break the higher highs and head back to the all-time high, that is absolutely great, and I'm in a position and not missing out on anything. And I can put my stop loss below this level, where if this breaks, I know that we're not done consolidating. I get stopped out, I'm back into cash, and I can rebuy lower after I get a better position. So the situation is different now. The price may be in the same area. So right now, if we were on the way up and you said, hey, can I take a long-term position at 37.40, I'd say no, I would wait for consolidation. At this point, if you said, hey, can I make an entry at 34 or 37.40, I would say yes, just ensure that you have your stop loss under the appropriate level, and that will get you out if it does not continue in the bull's favor. So again, the difference in scenario is just the fact that we have support established versus no support established on the way up. Another point I want to make is I really have disliked that we don't have pre-market trading, because it allows these market makers in Canada to open things wherever they want. Some clues that we've been using for pre-market data is MJX does trade pre-market, and the bid and the ask can often give indication. For example, on Friday, we saw that the bid was where we closed and the ask was higher. So that told me we're going to see green when we open. Whether or not the bulls can hold that green is a different story, but we are going to start with higher opens. We can also look to Germany, and we have all of them have tickers in Germany, and Germany is already playing. And there are times where it doesn't directly correlate, but I would say at this point that we've been watching it, maybe 7 out of 8 times, it has given us a heads up on what to anticipate for the morning, because we have that information on what's going on for Germany. So I don't have those tickers offhand right now, but just Google what the tickers are of these companies in Germany, and it's essentially a little bit of a peek into some pre-market activity. So that's what we've been keeping an eye on as well. So checking in on WEED, again, the weekly chart is still bullish, not confirming the bearish reversal candlestick. That low of the past 4 days of consolidation of 35.26 is an important support level to me, and the important resistance is up at 39.09. We've been trading within this range for 4 days. I have scaled back my activity. I have been making some trades. I swung APH overnight the other night, but I am being much more cautious, and I'm waiting for a clear break. So at this point, the range this coming week for me that is important is that resistance 39.09 and support of 35.26. Checking in on APH, I liked APH a little bit better heading into the weekend. Same thing with ACB for different reasons. APH, look how close we are to the all-time high. In terms of the big three, the proximity towards that all-time high is the closest. So we're watching very close to see if these bulls can follow through. There's a very, very clear support level on APH at this point. And again, I just want to draw this potential head and shoulders pattern. It's clear on WEED. And I got my magnet on, so it's going to be a very bad drawing. But just the left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder. But this would only follow through if we come down and break 29.05. So bulls have a lot of wiggle room to protect against that bearish pattern following through at this point. So APH, I've really liked the base of support here at 16. So let's put the support level here. We bounced off of, it's actually 1660, and 1660 was our double bottom. That is now the most important support level on APH. And if you are a bear looking at this sector, I don't short these individual names, but if I had the ability to short APH, if you break that 1660 level, that is a very, very clear short signal. And we'll see how, at this point, it doesn't look anywhere near breaking. So that's just something to keep an eye on. I chose APH for the inside bars breaking bullish on the daily time frame. And actually, I got in a little bit early on Thursday afternoon just because I liked the price action. I liked how close we were to the all-time high. And we did break that inside bar bullish on Friday. Not a ton of follow through. Same thing for the range. We're watching the low of this little pullback of 20.33, and we've got resistance up at 23.56. That's the range I'm watching, and you can see how close. If we break 23.56, we're right there at 24.75, the all-time high. WEED still has multiple levels of resistance to get to the all-time high, even if we break 39.09. So a little bit more work for the bulls to do, a little bit less work for APH, which is why I'm keeping an eye on it. ACB, bullish news, all that CMED drama, and I said I'm going to stay away from it while that drama is going on, but once it's, very clear bullish action, and you see the news come out midday, and then the bulls react to it, certainly able to jump on board and ride that train. This is a bull flag of consolidation on the weekly time frame. The bulls are still holding on just fine. The daily chart, we have our clear base of support all the way down here, but the price levels that are important right now in the short term, 11.55 support, and you can see the momentum. So I said I liked APH heading into the next week because of the proximity to the all-time high. I like ACB because it has bullish momentum. It has news and attention of the market. And if there's, a bullish follow-through of buying CMED and all of that, that is a catalyst to get back to that all-time high. So the key resistances here are 14.16 and 14.88. So very quickly trying to catch back up to these other names and get to within striking distance of that all-time high as well. Look at the daily MACDs. They have cooled off, and they are close enough to get a bullish cross if we do see follow-through. So the bottom line is these bulls are holding on just fine, and we could absolutely see follow-through. So if you want to enter long-term positions to give yourself the possibility, these are the stop levels that I would use for that. I personally am still going to be trading in the shorter-term mindset and going to be waiting for a bit more consolidation on the weekly chart before I'm comfortable. Really, at this point, my gauge of when I'm comfortable long term at this weekly chart is when I am telling some friends that have been asking me when I'm comfortable telling them, okay, long term positions, good to go from these levels. Because look at APH. If we break this 1660 level, look at the lack of support established on the way up on this weekly chart. So if that level were to break, we could very easily drop 10%, 15, 20%. So I'm going to hold off for recommending long-term entries, even if we get a new all-time high. That's great for the people that do decide to go long where we're standing right now, but we have a long way to go until legalization, and I'm not going to put it back. You have to keep in mind that right now the TSX and the S&P 500 are absolutely insanely strong all of 2018. That is having an effect on every single sector in the stock market. So that's another thing we have to keep an eye on. We have, 5 months until we start getting into the home stretch, hopefully home stretch for the bulls. And over that 5 months, if the market consolidates for a few weeks, keep in mind this US stock market has not consolidated for 2 weeks in a row in as long as I can remember, which is probably a couple months and very significant amount of time. So if we consolidate for a few weeks in a row, that might be a potential catalyst for these sectors to consolidate as well. So that's something to keep an eye on, and another reason why I am holding off, because the market overall has been so strong. So again, I'm going to keep trading it bullish short term, and I do that with larger positions than I would in my long-term holdings anyways, so not missing out on too much profit in that regard. So we'll see if the HCB bulls can follow through and head back towards the all-time high. We have a very clear higher low pattern on the hourly, still favoring the bulls. MJN pulled back significantly, but it too could be described as a bull flag on the weekly time frame. We look at the daily chart and we can see our new base of support is that low, and look how much weaker it is. So ACB based out and is heading up, MJN is heading down. So it's still seeing some weakness, and I haven't traded it since this volatility and this bounce. And so right now, the level that I've been marking on the big three would be 975, but we broke that support by a few pennies, actually 15 cents on Friday. So that's how you know it's a little bit more bearish, and there's not as clear a support level. I'm just looking at 960 and 821. So a less comfortable position to be in to try and establish a long-term position on MJN, because there's no support level immediate nearby. And everything that I'm describing right now with, positioning and support levels and stop losses, this is all factored into your risk to reward scenario. The risk to reward on a breakout without support established is much higher than the risk to reward and knowing where to put a stop loss on these daily charts now that their support levels have been established. So MJN, key resistance is 1075, and those two supports that I mentioned, a break of 1075, there's a lack of resistance on the way up. That's when I'll start being interested in MJN again. NXTTF, which is the US ticker for Namaste. Can't chart the CSE, but there was some end of the day action here. Just want to point out a couple things. First off, the daily chart is very similar. Healthy consolidation. This is a bull flag, and we are seeing the bulls attempt to take back over. Resistance of 260 and 295 are the next two levels, and key support is down at 229, actually 225, and then down to 179. A lot of range in between these levels. I want to point it out at the end of the day because we had members in the chat room all over it with this volume that poured in, and we saw consolidation because when you run like this and you still have an hour and a half left in the trading day, you have to assume profit taking and consolidation is going to occur. And it did in a very healthy way. And I pointed out at the end of the day, this is a perfect segue into short-term strategy of what I was just talking about, risk to reward with the daily chart and having support established. So when you're running on the way up, if you were to say to me right here on the way up, hey, is entering at 245 a good entry? I'd say no, that's chasing, and the risk to reward is not favorable. And so we did end up going a little bit further up, and then we pulled back. But at the same level, if you ask me that question 30 minutes later and say, hey, what about an entry at 245? And this is the entry that I highlighted in the chat room. I said, if you make an entry right here, this is about where I said it, make an entry here, put your stop loss below the low of consolidation. It's a very low risk opportunity. If you get stopped out, it's a very small move down. And if the stop doesn't trigger, you then have the potential to see continuation and some momentum into the end of the day. So that ended up playing out really bullish and getting right back up towards that high of the day of 256 and 255. But my point is, it's a completely different scenario at the same price level, just dependent on what has gone on and where support has been established on the way. So again, RSI was overbought. Price had been running at that point for 30 minutes in a row, as opposed to RSI cooling off. Support has been established. We have leveled off, low bear volume, all the signals that make me comfortable on a re-entry. So checking in on IIPR, we made a trade on IIPR this week. Bearish news of some dilution led to a gap down open. And here's another scenario where I want to point out a short-term clear entry. So we were watching this gap down open, and we were looking for an entry opportunity as things were oversold. And we saw the initial move up to start the morning and set the high of the day at 272. That didn't do enough to give us a bullish indication for an entry, but it gave us a clear equilibrium pattern on the 5-minute time frame to start the morning. We have our low, our open, High of the bounce is the high of the day, higher low, lower high, straight across trading, and you could have made an entry on this bull break at 27.30. That's an equilibrium pattern breaking bullish. You can see as soon as it broke bullish, the bull volume started coming in. Or where I entered to be more cautious was at the new high of the day. And why we entered at that new high of the day when 27.72 broke is because at that point, we had no resistance as we were filling the gap on the way back up. So after 27.72, the price moved really easy all the way up to 29.30 on the day and swung that position overnight. Saw that the bulls were unable to break the high of Thursday, Friday morning, and then I exited the rest of my position as some others in the market did because we were unable to see continuation of that bull move. So now we have a daily chart or a daily inside bar in an equilibrium pattern with our high, low, lower high, higher low tightening range. It has a little bit longer to develop than some of these other US names that have been consolidating in this pattern a little bit tighter. The range right now on IIPR is 26.55 and 35.40. In terms of the other names I'm watching, look at ACNNF. This is the Australian ticker and has a really nice tight pattern with our high, low of consolidation, lower high, and trying for a higher low here. Not convincing enough yet. The bulls on Monday have to break 132 and make their way back up into this pattern. Must hold support is 120. If 120 breaks, I would be very comfortable shorting it. And if we see a break of 159, we're heading back towards the all-time high. So I anticipate this pattern to tighten a little bit more to start next week, and then perhaps midweek to the end of next week, we'll see a clear break and a volume spike accompanying that break that will give us indication on short-term direction from there. A lot of names setting up with similar patterns. MJNA, also tight, hasn't formed its higher low just yet, not confidently, but we have our high, low, lower high, attempting that higher low. And another one, just to point out how many there are similar, TRTC with our high, low, lower high, higher low, very tight range. Support is 28 cents, resistance is 38.65, and we're trading within that range. So I'm watching tightening equilibrium patterns on a lot of US names. I'm watching them on some of the Canadian names. Bulls are not out of the woods yet, but they had a successful week in the Canadian MJ sector thanks to some news keeping things picked up. We have the potential for further ETFs coming February 15th. This is going to be a different scenario than what we saw with MJX. MJX caught the market off guard, and we recognize that, and I was very proud of that because I'm not a fundamental person. I'm a charts kind of guy, and this was using a lot of fundamentals and noticing different things, even just using social media metrics and things like that to determine that we were ahead of the market on that. Now the market saw what happened with the Canadian MJ sector, the last ETF. I am anticipating now the week leading up into the ETF. If we have a list of the holdings that it's going to be, all of those names are going to get bought up on the week into the ETF. It's going to happen sooner. The market is going to be more prepared for this, and it's going to price in this action sooner than it did on MJX. So as soon as we get that list, the start of February, I'm going to be scouting all of those names really hard for bullish action, as we're going to be anticipating people getting in before the ETF starts buying, and then we'll see the ETF open up and have that positive correlation as well. Another thing I want to note that a member has been sharing with us is that MJX is not tradable in most Europe brokers, and that's because MJX hasn't put the proper paperwork to be eligible to be traded. And that has a member shared that their broker was really astounded that that has not happened because they have a lot of demand for MJX and it can't be traded until this happens. I do anticipate it will happen. Company may be dropping, or I should say the ETF may be dropping the ball a little bit there, but they will pick it up and it will go through and they will open themselves to European markets, in my opinion. And unless there's some legal reason they're not doing that, but that would be just even more buyers. So all in all, the space is still bullish. We got a significant consolidation for 3 days of a dump from that high. The bulls have calmed down, the bears have calmed down, and we're just seeing slower action, which means I'm scaling back the amount I'm trading and watching very close for spikes in volume and breaks and opportunities. ACB certainly gave us those this week, where it was a very slow week, and then the bulls just rocketed up once the news digested. And we got some news really early on the day that it did see that breakout, and it was actually at about, I think, 12:08 down here is when the news got out, and we posted it in the chat room, and then it took about 30-45 minutes before the breakout really got going. So I appreciate you watching one of the longer videos here. Hopefully it was helpful, and we'll be back soon.